Okay, we are live on the Get Foxy show with the lovely Cathy Weiss. Cathy, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I know you are just doing big things in the world. You're an educator, a yoga instructor, and an energy healer. How did you discover your strengths?
Oh, Terry, that is such an awesome question. First of all, thank you for having me on your show today. I'm really excited to talk to you and your listeners and hopefully give them a little bit more info to elevate their life in some way. So, how did I discover my strengths? I feel like it's sort of been this ongoing process through my life, but the first part I want to key in on is educator. So we all have a dharma or a soul's purpose, and whether we can articulate it and know what it is or not, we all have it. And you can look at the stream of my life and see that I was always teaching something. Even as a child, I was assigned to tutor the new girl who came from Korea to help her learn English. And then in high school, I was teaching the other cheerleaders how to do the cheers. And my first career was a first and second grade teacher. And then I became a yoga instructor. So there was just always this innate part of me that was doing some sort of teaching. And even now, as an energy healer, a big part of what I do is I teach women what their energy is, how they can bring it up if it's low, and action steps that they can do and follow in their lives to also start living their soul's purpose. So it's just educating is just an innate part of who I am. And if I'm not teaching somebody something for too long, I start to feel like really itchy and uncomfortable.
Well, and you know you are on the right path when you're scratching that itch.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, as an acupuncturist, I'm kind of curious about this energy healing part that you've mentioned. Do you practice a specific kind of energy work?
Not particularly. I know that people are really familiar now with Reiki and how that works, and I have been trained in Reiki. But even before that, in my yoga education studies, I had taken a therapeutic yoga teacher training course. And in that course, they were like, "Here's what energy is," and I will explain that in just a second. And here's how you run energy into someone's body, and here's how you can take out like stuck or blocked energy. And to me, that was as natural as like, here's how you do triangle pose. I was like, oh, I just do this and I can work with people's energy. Um, so I don't prescribe to any particular modality because again it's like sort of really innate and a natural gift that I happen to have, but people do need to understand what their energy is so that I can explain that further.
Please.
So we all have an electromagnetic vibration and it extends away from our body. Science can measure this vibration up to about 5 feet away from the physical body, but it's not like that energy ends right there. That's just as far as the tools that we have can measure it. So, like a ripple in a pond, your magnetic vibration continues away from your body. And the further away you get, those waves are going to get smaller and quieter, but I am someone who is highly sensitive, and only about 20% of the population is highly sensitive. So I can feel those vibrations at a much greater distance than your average person. So for me, being able to read someone's energy, all I need to do is get really still and quiet. And no matter where someone is on the planet, I call it like tuning into their channel. So I just tune into that person's energy and I can feel where energy is flowing, where it feels good, where it's healthy, and where there might be areas where it's stuck or blocked. And then I can address that again, like across distances. But one of the things that's also unique to me is I provide all of my clients with action steps that they can do to start to reclaim their energy for themselves. Because I think a lot of us know, like, oh, I have low energy because I didn't sleep well last night, or my diet has been sort of off the rails lately. But energy is also affected by things much more subtle, such as breathing patterns and thought patterns, because our thoughts are electrical currents that run through the body, and that electrical current then affects the vibration of the body, and that affects the vibration coming off of the body. So often I am going to be providing people with action steps that include something for their breath or for their mind to begin to change the vibration internally as well.
Oh, yes, that you are speaking my language here. As a Chinese medicine practitioner, we certainly believe that emotions and the thoughts that we have a profound effect on the body.
Yeah.
And one of the things I constantly repeat to my patients is where the mind goes, the chi or the energy, where the mind goes, the chi flows,
Yep.
or energy follows intention.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's all connected out there.
It
So,
is.
pardon me. For my listeners, I am experiencing a little bit of a respiratory issue, but we're on the mend. So, Cathy,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what is your definition of foxy? What does being foxy mean to Cathy Weiss?
That's such a juicy question. Right before we sat down, I was actually asking myself the question, what do women need to do to reclaim their foxy? So I'm going to go there first, and then I'll go and tell you what my definition of it is.
Okay,
Does
that's
that sound fair?
fantastic. That's
Okay.
fantastic, because I was going to follow that up with what.
That way.
Yeah, so we're just going to flip the
I'm
script.
just going to flip it. Boom, there we go. So in order to reclaim it, what came through for me is that women need to inhabit their bodies. So when we're going through our days, there's such a mental checklist going on, right? Okay, I've got to get up, I've got to get ready, got to like pack the kids' lunches or whatever and get out the door and get to work. And at work, it's like checklist, checklist, checklist. And we're all up in our mind all day long. And it's almost like completely disconnected from here down. So either about an hour a week or as little as 15 minutes a day, women would benefit from doing some sort of activity where they get back into their body, something where there is some breath flowing and some movement happening, where it's like, oh, there are my toes down there. I forgot that I even had them, or you know what I mean? So it could be yoga. What I hear a lot is it could be swimming, because you get into the pool and you can feel the water on your body, and there's a real syncing up of breath and movement when we're in water or something like that, but not necessarily. Going to the gym is great, and a lot of women are really dutiful about going to the gym regularly, but there can also be a little bit of a mental checkout at the gym, right? Because we put headphones on, we're listening to the podcast, or we're listening to music, or we're watching the screens. And so again, there's a part of us that's living up here even as the body goes through its routine. And so there's really a necessary component of unplugging that stuff so that the mind can drop back down into the physical body and just have an awareness. This movement feels great. This part of my body actually feels really good today. This part of my body is feeling tight or uncomfortable, and just getting back inside. So that's how we can reclaim it. So then the question was like, what's my definition of foxy? And I kind of giggle a little bit, because for many years I owned a yoga studio called Yoga Flirt. And Yoga Flirt combined the wisdom of yoga with pole fitness. But there was a huge aspect of Yoga Flirt that was more the yogic component. So we talked about yoga philosophy, how it affects us as women. And then we started the movement really slow and easy, where women could, again, feel their bodies. Like, run your hand up your arm and notice, like, do you like a light touch? Do you like firm? Do you want to scratch your nails up your body? And so for me, it was this idea, foxy is this idea of sensuality, but not necessarily sexuality. So the word sensual merely means to experience the world with your senses. So to get in there, it's about, how do things feel physically? What do you see? What do you smell? And again, so it's inhabiting the body in a way where you're really aware of your personal preferences. So to me, Foxy means knowing that I can get in my body and move it in a way that feels satisfying to me. It drops Mike on
Oh,
stage.
I'm just this is something that I preach to my clients as well, in that so many women that come into my clinic are living up in their heads or even outside because they're not tuned in to themselves. They don't have that self awareness.
Yes.
And so getting somebody to be able to tune back into their body and be present in their body makes such a huge difference. I don't know if you're familiar with Rachel Jane Groover or her Art of Feminine Presence work.
No, I
But
haven't heard of her.
okay, that's something that if you want her information, I can get that to you.
Yeah.
But she talks about head bubble womb space and how women are generally up in this head bubble, and if we can get them back down into their womb space, it creates a shift in their energy and their awareness in the way that people perceive them and how they perceive themselves.
Absolutely.
It makes a big shift.
Yeah, it's
in how you're
massive.
feeling.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm familiar with this is my wife had gone through some of Rachel's training, and I couldn't believe the difference that it made for her, being able to ground herself in her body so that she could begin to, completely integrate. It was huge.
Yeah, and we all have within us innately the intuition that tells us what we need to heal. But like you're saying, so many of us are up here in our head that we've lost connection to that. And so part of what I do is help women learn to trust what their instinct and intuition is telling them, because that will help them heal or feel more alive or more present or whatever it is that's sort of missing in their lives. And it's all in there already. Like, we're programmed to have that, but we've just kind of moved into this place where a lot of us have lost connection to that.
So how do you initially begin to help someone kind of tune back into their body?
Absolutely. There's a couple of different modalities I use. I do teach yoga, both live in person and over Zoom or other online forums for people who aren't in close proximity to me. So if somebody is really interested in just learning how to use their breath and move their body, they can absolutely reach out to me and we can work on it that way, because our energy bodies in the yoga philosophy is sort of like a little Russian nesting doll, and the physical body is the first layer, and then we go into the breath and the mind, and then the bliss body moving inward. So for some of us, healing really has to begin on the physical level, just reconnecting to the physical body. So for some people, I might start that way. For other people who are already in a place in their life where they do use their body and move their body, I might then, this is where I'm going to tune into their energy and read their energy and get healing message. Just kind of, I'm doing this because I like write down before I see them. I write down what I'm feeling in their energy. And then I get some action steps for them. So it could be breath work or meditation or mantra. So my work is really, really personalized and specific to each person. So there's never been two people that I have doing the exact same things in their life to start to rebuild their energy.
What are some of the most common questions that you tend to get about your work?
How can you read my energy when you're not in the same room with me? And other than what I've already explained, it's so natural to me, and it's such a gift to me, that other than saying like I tune into your channel and I feel you, I kind of don't really know how I do that. It's just something that I absolutely can do. And even a few days ago, I was on an interview with another podcaster, and I had done similar to what I did for you, which is beforehand, I was like, what do the listeners of this show need to hear? And I wrote a few things down. And then as we discussed it, she was like, oh my God, I'm writing a book. And those are the three main principles of my book. And I was like, well, then that's just huge affirmation that you're on the right track with this book. But she didn't know I was going to do that ahead of time. And so it's sort of like that. I can just do it. So it can be a little bit frustrating until people experience it for themselves and go like, oh, wow, that's actually a real deal sort of a thing. But I would say that that's usually the biggest question people have. But once they have some experience with me, or they go over to YouTube and watch some videos where I do live readings for people over on Facebook, I do it, but then I post it on YouTube, and they see that, then they're like, okay, I'm on board.
It's kind of interesting how sometimes we in the holistic medicine biz have to deal with skepticism.
Yes. Yeah. Especially because what I do specifically, you can't see it. Like I can't really show you it in action other than to watch a reading that I'm doing for someone else or have a personal experience with me.
Yep. Yeah, the energetic body. I as an acupuncturist, I mean, I am putting a needle in somebody's tissue,
Mm-hmm.
but we're also accessing their energetic body.
Yes.
And so when I get shifts, people go, "Wow, okay, how does putting a needle in my foot all of a sudden take care of my headache?" Well, there's an energetic connection there. But if you're not open to realizing that yes, there is an energetic body, then yeah, it can make it a little difficult for you to kind of comprehend what is possible.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like collectively people are curious about it and wanting to know more and starting to open up to this idea of it. But because it's challenging for some people to perceive with their senses, it's hard to then create a mental construct around what's happening. And so some of it is just a big dose of trust that those of us who have gifts or skills or have studied this field, that we're not full of crap and that we're actually doing some real serious work in this vibration that is coming off of your body.
You bet. Well, I know that's something that well, I just lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It'll come back. It's okay. We could just jump to the next question and then you'll be like, oh, that's what I was going to talk about.
Oh goodness. It's one of those things where, you know, I've worked with people and have uh, I have some training also in Reiki and
Mm-hmm.
energy work,
Mm-hmm.
but also Wudang external chi healing, which was taught to me by a Taoist priest up in Estes Park,
Mm-hmm.
Colorado. His name is Wudang Chen. Grew up on Wudang Mountain at the age of 5 and has studied Tai Chi and Kung Fu and holistic healing since that age. And some of the experiences that we've had with that energy work, I mean, it's pretty profound.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of change that you can create just by doing energy work with somebody is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. It
So
really is.
I'd be curious to know, out of the many people that you've served, who's had the most outstanding transformation?
Like immediately I thought of one woman in particular who, when she came to me, was just sort of like stuck and meh and not really sure about her career. And right away, you know, I could feel things going on in her energy field making that happen. And so it took a couple of sessions of adjusting the way her energy was flowing. But the thing that really strikes me about her is that in each session, when I come up with guidance, within 24 hours, she'll be like, look, I did it. Look, I did what you said. And in just a couple of months, she is like skyrocketing in her career. All of her available time slots are full with clients that she sees. Her energy in her family is transformed, and she's feeling great and excited about her life and her career trajectory again. And it's really been this combination of the work that I'm doing with her and her energy, but also her willingness to take responsibility and do the things that she needs to do to help not only maintain, but create lasting change within herself. And it's important for anyone to know that the energy healing is real, but that there's also, it can take time depending on what's going on. It may not be like a one and done quick fix. It can take several sessions. Again, it's so personalized, but sometimes, like, say, for example, somebody has what we would call an energy leak. So ideally, we want energy flowing through the body. But if they have an energy leak, it's coming in, but then going out the side or something like that. And so the first thing we have to do is repair the place where it's leaking and prevent whatever's preventing the energy from flowing down, remove blockages. So it might even be, first I've got to remove the blockage, because if I close up this leak without healing the blockage, we have like an explosion, right? And then, like, in real life, that creates a huge mess. We don't want that. So
Mm.
sometimes it can be like a step-by-step process of, like, first we need to address this, and then address this, and then address this to get that long-lasting change. So I definitely want everyone who's listening to know to be patient. If you're someone who's interested in healing your energy and working with someone like Terry or myself, then that patience of knowing it's going to take some time. It could take a couple weeks, it could take a couple months, it could take a year, but in the ultimate result is worth that commitment that you have to yourself and making those changes, and then knowing that there is personal responsibility. Because as much as you and I can help people, if they go right back into the old habits that created the unhealthy or the stuck energy or whatever it is, it's just going to come back.
Amen to that. I couldn't have said that any better. Oh my goodness. Yeah, personal responsibility is huge when it comes to personal transformation.
Yes.
If you want the healing to occur, yeah, you've got to be able to, self-discipline, self-sacrifice in some ways. I mean, although generally when you're self-sacrificing for self-transformation, that sacrifice is repaid multiple times.
Yeah.
So then it really isn't that much of a sacrifice.
Yeah. Yes.
But I feel like that at the time.
Yeah, and I would agree with you about the self-discipline. There really is, so say, for example, I say to someone, when you're driving in your car, I would suggest that you listen to this particular mantra. And then they get in their car and they go right back to listening to their rock music. Right? There's not much that I can do about that. And so it really is that discipline of, like, no, I'm going to listen to the mantra, and I'm going to listen to it because mantra is vibration, and allowing that mantra to come in is going to affect my vibration. So as much as I want to, like, rock out over here, doing this instead is ultimately going to benefit myself and my higher good. And when I benefit myself and my higher good, I create positive change in the world around me as well. So there is a little bit of, like, sometimes suck it up.
Yep. Yes. So I'm curious, Cathy, who embodies Foxy in your world right now?
Like, there's like this whole roll call of different women for different reasons, like, coming through my mind, because each of us has such a unique expression of that and that energy. And so a couple of women come to mind, but the one who came up at the top of the list is a woman named Michelle, who I've known for many years only in the digital world. And one of the things that I absolutely adore about her is she's a very astute businesswoman and runs an amazing business. And yet you'll see pictures of her on her Instagram stories in, like, knee-high sparkly boots and going to take pole dancing classes and aerial silk classes and things like that. And so while she is able to be very much in her mind and run a completely impressive, thriving business, she's also able to step away from that and go have fun and be playful and live in her body. So I feel like she's the one that came to me as like someone who really has the best of both worlds in an amazing balance. And I really truly believe that it's because she steps away from her business and plays and has fun and does things that are just for the heck of it, that's why she's able to have such an amazing business. It's because she's not constantly in that, but she's also over here enjoying life. So
It's
she wins.
women like that that I really respect so much, because you can see them really embodying their values
Mm-hmm.
and their energy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're just so magnetic and charismatic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so much fun to watch someone like that in their element.
Yes.
What would you say your number one bit of advice to the Get Foxy show listeners would be for cultivating that inner fox?
I think step one is to reconnect with breath. And it's about, again, like unplugging. And even if it's for like literally grab your phone and set a timer for 1 minute, and all you do is sit still for 1 minute and breathe in a really rhythmic, even way, that's going to start to affect massive change. Because as we've been mentioning, when we're up in our heads, our breath is doing all kinds of funky stuff. We're either holding our breath, we could be doing like short, rapid breathing, we could be like taking a huge inhale and then like barely exhaling, or doing, there's so many breathing patterns and habits that throw off everything else. And so just by sitting down and say, for example, like inhale to a count of 4, exhale to a count of 4, and doing that for literally 1 minute is the first and most simple step to begin to reclaim that inner foxy self that we're talking about.
So if somebody who's listening today wants to learn more information about your work or how they can get a hold of you, where can they find you?
All over the place on the I love that, because there's so many options for people to choose whatever is their preferred way of connecting with someone. But they can head over to my website, which is Cathy with a C Weiss.com. And my last name is Weiss. And if they pop over to my homepage, there's even a 20% savings on their first session with me. So that can be a little bit of an extra incentive to check things out. I'm also on Facebook at Lightworker Cathy Weiss. I'm on Instagram at lightworker_Cathy. And I'm on YouTube. It's bit.ly/YouTube Cathy.
Okay, well, I will include all of that information in the show notes. And
Awesome.
Cathy, if you can believe it, we're already out of time.
It's crazy. It was so much fun, and I feel like we could keep going forever, but we'll leave it there, and if they want more info, they can reach out and find me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.